Ugh. Come on in. Come on in. Get on in that chat. Get on in that chat. And when you're in the chat, let me know you're in the chat. I'm going to flip this over, actually. Oh, that's better. That's a better angle. Hey. Get on in. When you guys are in the chat, let me know. Drop some stuff in the chat. Here we go. Here we go. We got the peeps coming by. We got the peeps coming by. Hello, hello. What up, what up? Dropping some comments in the chat. I want to hear from all you guys. What's the wine tonight? All right. Ooh, what's this? Oh, what's this? What's this? So this is going to be fun. It's a fun wine. So my one of my clients gave this to me, and it's dandelion wine, and I've never had it before. Dandelion wine is it's got other stuff in it too, but it's predominantly fermented dandelions, and it's a common kind of like bootleg thing. So I'm excited for this, and I've honored it with a gold-plated chalice, which my mom found actually at some random antique store for like $1. Lest you think it's it's really nice. It's really nice stuff, but you got a good deal. Ooh, a lot of citrus in this one. This is really good, actually. This is really, I have to be honest. I would not have thought this would be so pleasant. You get that floral dandelion on the back end, but actually it's mostly citrus. Hold on, guys. I'm going to flip this around again. My apologies. My right hand's a little better at managing this stuff on my left. All right. Let me see what we got here. The goat is on, and I'm at a pre-Thanksgiving party. Well, I appreciate you stopping by here. Hey, we'll dive right in. Now, there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about, but I think that the biggest thing worth mentioning is the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and why that's significant. Now you're going to hear all sorts of people, and they're going to talk about some people are calling it a distraction from the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Other people are talking about the Rittenhouse trial, like it's a good thing, but they're talking about it mostly in 3D terms, in the sense of if he had been convicted, it would have been open season on Americans, and it would have been very, very bad. And all that stuff is true. Okay, it's even true about the distraction. That was their initial intention for it, was to be some sort of distraction. But that ended up changing. The thing is, a lot of energy started to get poured into it. So think about this. A lot of people can understand this on a physical level, so try to understand the metaphor. We're in a multi-front war. It's a multi-front war. You've got the vax, you've got mandates, you've got Jan 6, you got the election, you've got tons and tons of different stuff, right, going on. You got Antifa, you got Kyle Rittenhouse. So they have to, you have to hold one front in order to maintain a different front, right? Like, you can't concede the election and expect to be able to triumph in the mandate. So some fronts, they're more on offense, some fronts they're more on defense, but there's this long line in these different theaters. So Kyle Rittenhouse thing was supposed to be just like it was supposed to be a battle, but it wasn't supposed to be a big one. But what ended up happening, if you think in some battles, like think in World War II, the battle starts to get really heated. And so then both forces start to just send in reinforcements. And suddenly what was maybe going to be a skirmish becomes a battle where whole armies are committed into. And that's what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. Anybody who says it didn't really matter, it's a distraction, they're just a fucking idiot. They're just a fucking idiot. It's not how it works. Anybody who tells you that this trial didn't matter is LARPing. They just want attention. It mattered a lot, not necessarily for the 3D reasons, but because the American public, and beyond, frankly, invested energy in that trial. And they invested energy in that trial because it was a symbol of where this country is going to go. Now, if we had lost that trial, it wouldn't have been the end for us. But it would have been a big defeat, and things would have gotten very dark. Now, I'm not going to come here and tell you guys that they're not going to regroup and they're not going to have other things up their sleeve. They're not going to keep pushing, but look at them right now. They're totally demoralized. They do not look strong anymore. And I want you to keep in mind, they don't have that big of an army. Like if we had been defeated, we would have had to fall back and regroup, but we keep getting reinforcements. So we would have been fine in the long term, but how much more bloody would the war have gotten? Because we won, because Kyle won, because Kyle's innocence was ensured, they lost a battle they couldn't afford to lose. This is the thing you guys have to understand. We can actually afford to... People have it all backwards. They think that we can't afford to lose anything, and that if we mess up, it's over. That's actually the opposite. They can't afford to lose. They're a small force that controls key positions. So this was a very glorious battle. And I can tell you guys, really through November, especially after the election, the state elections, but right after the state elections, they started, like there was like this dip in tension, and then it started to go back up again. And for a solid 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks, the tension was just getting out of control. I gotta tell you guys, I don't know if you felt it. It was pretty crazy, pretty angsty, to be honest. And I know some people like to laugh about this, but if you're more intuitively inclined, you can really feel the collective consciousness. You can start to feel psychic pressure, and you can understand. You can be like, all right, well, nothing's really changed in my life. Like everything I've been doing is the same, but for whatever reason, I'm feeling like really pissed off about this stuff. I'm feeling really. I can tell you, I had to like really take it easy in some sense, because the amount of psychic pressure that was coming in from the collective was massive. It was a really rough fight. So now we won. It's big stuff. Big battles like this for us that we win are so important. So I'm happy, and I knew he wasn't going to get convicted. I wasn't sure about a mistrial, I'll be honest. I think it was one of those things, like, they almost broke the line. Like, they were very, very close to breaking the line. And then Thursday night, it flipped. I don't know if you guys felt that, but it flipped. So, anyway, what comes next? So we're going to talk about a couple of fun things that are coming down the line. The first thing I want to say is, remember, there is no honor among thieves. No honor among thieves. So when we talk about the cabal, people are like, oh, the cabal's all working together. Cabal's, there's this unified group and they're going to take over the world. Actually, the Cabal hates each other because that's the way evil is. Evil is all about separation and fragmentation, which means you can't ever have harmony with evil. Evil is always going to find something to fight against, and it will fight against itself if it can. Jeff, it is not actually. My mother found this at a antique store, and honestly, she got this for $1, but it is genuine gold on the stemware. But the thing is, there's no set. So we have a couple of odd glasses like this that just have the gold stemware at the top, but they're not a set. So, it's kind of difficult to use. However, Jeff, you're right that they tend to have this sort of engraved patterning in a lot of Eastern European like cups and whatnot, glasses. I have seen that quite a bit. So where was I with this? So they are working together against us because if you are a bunch of hyenas, you're not going to eat each other if you can both go and take down the sheep, eat the sheep. But if the sheep suddenly become inconvenient to eat, hey, if the sheep don't want to be eaten, the sheep are now wolves, and they're making it difficult, these hyenas, these jackals, by their very nature, start to go against each other. And that's why these defeats are important. And but it's important also for us to maintain composure and not get reckless, okay? Because right now, what they are doing, what they are going to do, what you're going to see more and more of as their fronts collapse is they are going to start to go against each other, bicker with each other, try to sell out each other. And one of the big things you're going to see with this has to do with the presidency. Now, we all know that Biden is on his way out. And I know he just got, his battery replaced up his ass. They just, pulled out the old battery and put the new one in there. But I think we all kind of know that there's not a lot left in this guy. He's kind of served his purpose as a Manchurian candidate. People are not remotely taking him seriously, and they don't really have much credibility left, and they need more credibility in order to move things forward. Now, the problem, of course, is that number 2 is Kamala Harris, who is probably hated more than Biden. Okay? She is hated more than Biden. People would rather have a senile retard occupying the seat of the regime than her. But the thing is, Kamala Harris is part of a different faction. So I think Biden was kind of the compromise individual. He was part of the Obama administration. He was kind of tied in some ways. He wasn't part of the Clintons, but he wasn't, the two biggest factions, 3 biggest, I guess you could say. You had the Clintons, you had the Obamas, and you have Pelosi. There's the 3 biggest kind of groups, okay? And Pelosi's faction was kind of the one that was a little bit, I don't want to say lower, but more up and coming, right? Has really filled the Clinton vacuum, as the Clinton faction has really had to go into hiding and lost a lot after what happened with the 2016 election. So Pelosi's faction kind of filled in that gap of power. So you have Biden, who's kind of, and because people wonder, like, well, why did they even put Biden in there? Why couldn't they agree on somebody else? My contention is that they put Biden in there because he's an idiot. Even before he was senile, he was an idiot and relatively easy to control. But more than that, he was kind of a compromise candidate. Different factions all felt, okay, he's not their ideal choice, but they could go with it. So Obama's patsy is Kamala Harris, but she's very hated. And the other thing is that she was not born in the United States. So this is like really well known. She wasn't born in the United States. So if they were to try to make her president, and I'm talking beyond when Biden's getting his butthole waxed. I mean, that she is going to that she would actually take over as president. Pelosi's faction, I don't think is going to let that happen. I don't think you're going to see Kamala Harris as president for more than a series of days, maybe weeks. Yeah, the funny thing about Kamala Harris, and a lot of black people know this, is that her family are slave owners. Like, literally, they're slave owners. And she's dark more because she's Jamaican, okay, but more dark because it's like not, it's more like Indian background. But her family was slave owners. I mean, this is the funny thing. And they have her trying to talk like she's African American. I mean, the whole thing is so absurd. It's so absurd. Like, you really just wonder how stupid some people are that they actually even follow it. Like, what is that 20% of people that actually are okay with Kamala Harris? Like what? Why? But anyway, the point of all this stuff. Where am I going with this? You're going to start to see a fight for the throne, because as they're going to come in the aftermath of all this and say, it's not working, we need to change the plans. Well, you're not going to be able to take over. No, you're not going to be able to take over. And they're going to snap at each other. And you're going to start to see their fighting pour out into the open. And I personally think Pelosi's going to win. I think Pelosi's very ruthless. And, I think that she's going to be able to take out Kamala. But at what cost? At what cost? I don't think that she's going to be in a good position when she does this. And by the way, this theater is not going to look very good for the normies. Especially the normies who are on the left side of the spectrum, who are now going to start to really see how the sausage is made, so to speak. So this is going to be a big thing coming up. Now, and I think that as you start to see that unfold, towards it's soon thereafter that I think you'll see the economic crash coincide with it, with the resolution of it. So this is, we talked about October through March. So this was the big breakdown period. And we're about a month and a half in. And so we got some more months to go before we get till spring and we start to have more of a clear new direction. And by the way, I said this before, but do not think that this is over in the spring. It's just a matter of this period. I feel fully confident that things will be moving in our favor by the time we get to March. And I think it's very likely that'll even happen sooner. But we are going to be advancing, and they're going to be on defense, and they're going to be trying to protect themselves. But the thing is, you make a breakthrough on one front, and the whole line starts to crumble for them. And they are getting pressured on multiple fronts. So I got to just say, like, if you're a black pillar, I know most of you guys aren't, because you wouldn't be watching my show if you weren't the black pill. There's plenty of other people who will say stupid shit. They'll even try to find a way to snatch defeat out of the hands of victory when it comes to Kyle Rittenhouse. They'll say, well, it doesn't matter. It's still, it took so long. Doesn't mean anything's going to... These people are just addicted to being fucking miserable. They're addicted to losing. They have no idea how much spirit and fight is left in this country. Okay? I'm sick of hearing it. This country's in a bad situation because this country was complacent. The world was complacent. Okay? First off, in our defense, we were mind controlled. But even beyond the mind control, even beyond the propaganda, we absconded our responsibility for our government. And that's what we got. We got the government we deserve, which is a bunch of fucking freaks. Fucking freaks running the country. That doesn't mean that America's broken. America was just asleep. What did they call it? They said the same shit before the World Wars. America's not going to be able to do anything. America's pointless. No, America was a sleeping giant. Sleeping giant. And that if you give America time to wake up, then it becomes an unstoppable force. And that's the way it always is with this country. And it's the way it's going to be again. Now, hopefully, we're not going to go back to sleep. But we are going to wake up from this, and we're going to do well. One thing I want people to understand, though, is that this is not a matter of this politician or that politician. I mean, we have some good politicians. We have DeSantis. No one can say crap about DeSantis. We have Trump. People can say crap about Trump, but go fuck yourself, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if Trump wasn't around. So show a little respect, show a little loyalty. Clinton would have nuked a city. I don't know if you guys remember that whole incident that happened during Trump's term at the Guatemalan Cultural Center in Los Angeles. And they actually sent in, God, what are they called? Oh man, I'm forgetting the name of the exact kind of teams, but these are the kind of like special operations teams that are launched to deal with biological, radiological, nuclear kind of situations. And they tried to say this was a train exercise, but you actually had these teams drop in the middle of a crowded street in Los Angeles, and they effectively disarmed a nuclear bomb in the middle of Los Angeles. And the whole plan with Clinton was to liquidate a city, get us into a war, have us in lockdown, biological attacks. It was going to be a fucking nightmare. I mean, we talk about all the good timelines, good timeline, bad timeline. The 2016 election was the real timeline that we had to worry about, because if Trump had lost that election, it would have been pretty much impossible to come back from. Yeah, I've heard that as well, Jeff. That's the plan. I don't know if I buy it though. Anything's possible. I mean, any kind of absurdity is possible with these people, and maybe they'll throw that wrench in for Pelosi, that they'll say we want Hillary to be the vice president, and then Pelosi will have to deal with Hillary. At any rate, these are some of the things that we got. But the point of all this stuff is that you can't rely on politicians to save you. You can't rely on the politicians. This is a matter of the population waking up. It's a matter of you deciding whether or not you're going to comply, how you're going to operate, how you're going to proceed. It's a matter of you taking effort on a personal level to deal with corruption and problems within your government. That means stuff like, are you going to run for school board? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? What are you going to do? What are you going to do to help improve your country? And I was talking to some people locally today, and they were going to go and try to get affidavits from figures in New Jersey about the New Jersey election, which we know was stolen. But, Jack wasn't really willing to fight it, unfortunately. But look, even if he had, was it because he was compromised? Was it because he didn't have support? Not a lot of these people have fight, but then you have people like Youngkin, and everybody was so excited. Oh my God, Republican won Virginia again. Well, people had pointed out that he'd been on Council of Foreign Relations, and he had gotten all this Chinese money. And now look, it's allowing the mandates to happen in Virginia, allowing municipalities to do it, which is like a real big classic, pussy Republican cover. Meanwhile, you have DeSantis banning it in the state and fining companies. So there's not a lot of people who are going to be fighting for you, and you can't just rely on them even when you do have them. You have to stop looking outside of yourself. We got in this mess because we looked to others to save us. to take care of things for us. And we got the worst of the worst. I mean, you saw the prosecutor in the Rittenhouse trial. Like, if you thought, like, oh my God, like, I thought about this, like, I want to be a prosecutor. And then you see these guys, these schlubs, fucking losers. These people are losers. And these are the people that are going to enforce the rule of law in the country. These are the people who are looking, come on, they went all to corporate law. All the smart guys went to corporate law. They tried to enrich themselves. They didn't care about the country. They didn't care about giving back. Now, I understand the system was designed against them, and I also understand that a lot of prosecution, you're compromised by the system. But this is the point, is that we let it get this far. We let it get this far collectively. So, I think, this is a good point, Steve. A group of people in my state pretty serious about setting up a republic with its own courts. Well, yeah, I mean, we're really looking at parallel system here, and this is a prediction, and I don't know the details of it because we haven't really seen anything like it before. But I tweeted about this a few weeks ago that you're not going to see secession, but you are going to see states build a new United States within the United States. And that's like a parallel system. So you're going to start to see states redeclare sort of their allegiance to the Constitution, and there will be a different structure. So the federal government's going to say, you have to do this, you have to do this. And they're going to say, no, we're not going to do this. And we're not going to, by the way, give you any tax money either. So they're going to starve the federal city, and they're going to begin to increasingly ignore it, which is a very different kind of warfare from what I think a lot of people are used to, where you think we're going to march on it. I don't think that there's going to be a ton of kinetic action. I don't think it's going to be necessary. I think to the extent that it even occurs will be something that's more of like a mopping up at the end. And look, I have no involvement in this. I'm just kind of looking at it and I'm seeing this is what I think maybe is going to happen. Because you're starting to see states, you have the Oklahoma National Guard saying we're not going to listen to the Pentagon. You have DeSantis obviously doing his stuff. And now you have Texas is looking like it's going to plug the border on its own. And a lot of this is timing when it's going to happen. But as the federal government gets weaker and weaker, you're going to start to see more states do this, especially the bigger states. So it's very, very interesting. Very, very, very interesting to see how this all plays out. And it'll be interesting to see how it happens in the courts. I mean, people are already talking about building separate hospitals, having separate hospital system, healthcare system. I'm telling you guys, if you are dependent on the current system, you got to get out. You got to get out of it. Find a way out, please. Because you're putting yourself in a very, very dangerous situation because it's going to collapse. It's going to collapse. And if you're doing things to compromise your health and safety for the old system, you're a fool. I'll just say it right out. You're a fool. Because you're not going to get the rewards from it. Because that system isn't going to last. It's going to continue to demand more and more from you. I do not think it's going to be a balkanization. Because it'll obviously start more in the conservative states. But as it goes on, it will start to... I think it'll get every state. And because you're the thing is, once other states are doing it differently, even if you have like the state government captured, it's going to be like a harder fight because you'll have a different layer to go through, right? If you're in a state like Oklahoma, you have the governor, you have the state legislature locked down. So it's very easy to have the state just say, we're going to do this stuff differently from the federal government when it has other states as well with it. If you're a state like, New Jersey or New York or Pennsylvania that's been captured, then they're going to continue to try to pay lip service to the federal government and the federal government's authority, but you're going to see that start to happen within the state and local areas against the state government. So you see, it's always decentralizing, and of course, it goes down to the individual, to the family, to the town, to the county, to the state, to the region, to the nation, to the world. Exactly. Once one state figures out how to circumvent it, will be a chain reaction. And let me paint a picture for you. Once Texas decides to plug the wall on their own, to stop 150,000 migrants every month from coming over, 150,000 at least, and the federal government can't do anything about it, what happens next? I mean, we're used to strong central authority because we've been undergoing, since the founding, this gradual movement away from the decentralized constitution to a centralized control mechanism. And that's on its way out. It's on its way out. And as they fight each other over what's left of the DC apparatus, you're going to see that more and more. I don't think it's a separation. I don't think it's a separation. That's what I'm trying to say. The United States isn't going anywhere. It's not a secession. We are no longer giving authority to the federal government. That's what's going to happen, is that the states are no longer going to listen to the federal government. They're going to operate independently of the federal government. And the federal government is not going to have enough strength to stop them and will collapse under its own corruption and inability to function. Because these people are parasites, and everything that they run is, the thing is, they have all these dreams of, we're going to centralize everything, we're going to control things, we're going to go after you, we're going to make you do all this stuff. But the thing is, what they create is so dysfunctional and incompetent that it doesn't really even work well. So I feel very good about it, and I'm also interested to see what people are going to do with taxes next year. Just interested. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about it. I'm curious to see what the reaction is going to be, because now they're going to try to massively increase people's taxes, and now people are starting to understand, well, they're actually using it to kill us. So I'm curious to see what we're going to see happen. But that we're months away from that. That won't start to happen until the spring. So yeah, guys, I mean, this is a lot of what's transpiring, but if I can have you guys take away anything, but you guys need to start to see how you can get involved and do your part. It can be a very small thing, but you're not alone. You're not alone. And when you do get out there and you start, whether it's you're gonna try to organize a local protest against the mandates in your area, and maybe you're out there by yourself at first, you tell some friends it's just you and a few other people. You keep doing it, other people are gonna see it, they're gonna come by. You can start to advertise it online, and little by little, you'll start to get other people to come there, and you don't understand the impact it makes when the people see it. But the point here is that this is everybody working together. You don't outsource it. Don't outsource it. Complacency is a killer here. Now, I will say, this is not applicable to true U.S. yet, but possible false flag in British Columbia to bring in climate change restrictions on petrol and food. They may try that. I can tell you that won't work at all in the United States, and it'll just hasten this mass decentralization thing I've been talking about. I gotta flip this again. I apologize. Wrist is getting a little sore. But yeah, of course they want to have everybody. They have so many of these different plans, and they're so stupid. I mean, they're so stupidly executed. They want everybody to have a carbon credit. You can only produce a certain amount of carbon per year. So what that means is that, it's going to be tied to your social credit score. How much carbon do you put out? Which is why they're telling you to eat bugs, because if you eat steak, then you have a higher carbon footprint because you're eating steak. So yeah, I don't doubt that they'll make some kind of crap about this, and they'll use this stuff in Canada. Yeah, it's insane. By the way, this is not like a this is not a hard prediction, but um, I do wonder at the end of all this what happens to Canada. I do wonder. I do wonder if Canada's even going to continue to exist, whether it just somehow gets absorbed into this new United States, just simply out of proximity of geography. Probably not, but uh, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? It just seems like as this stuff collapses, I'm not even sure what the yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, Jeff, Al Gore's jet. Well, yeah, guys, I think so. The last thing we can talk about here is the last thing we can talk about here is the economic crash, which is en route. You know, we were looking between Q3 and Q4, and things continue to proceed. Evergrande defaulted. Now it's very interesting. You haven't seen it have a super effect in the markets besides for the Australian bonds basically crashed. The 2-year bonds crashed dramatically before they were rescued. But it is it is it's on a very interesting path. It's on a very, very interesting path. And I think by the way we're looking at stuff now, I mean, we have another debt ceiling we have to deal with. But guys, I'll tell you, you guys are free to call me out and say Pat Stedman, bad prediction again. But I'm going to be shocked if we don't have this crash by the end of January. I'll be shocked if we don't have it by the end of January. It seems like it's got to happen by then. I know it's not a matter of exact timing, that all things happen in their own time, but it seems like as we get into December with all the holiday stuff, and you know, I can tell you that I'd heard before, like, or in October, people talking around the country about prices going up. I didn't actually see it here, but now I see it. Now I see it. We ordered out for dinner tonight. Prices were substantially higher, and got the new rolls of toilet paper, and they're not as wide. They like cut off a solid quarter of the toilet paper roll. And they're trying to say, oh, it's thicker. We just changed the dimensions. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Well, you did. You changed it, but you cut it. I think crypto will do well, especially in the short term. I can't predict. I'm not a trader. I can't predict any of the up and down cycles with it. But I think, look, once fiat starts to go down the toilet, I mean, it already is going down the toilet, but once it becomes like the inflation is really extreme, and we start to fall into an inflationary spiral, maybe like a stagflation kind of situation, that growth is stalling. A lot of these companies are very much on the edge right now. Like they can't get new product in, even if they want to, even if there's demand for it, even if people are willing to pay the prices, they just can't get it. I mean, I've heard from multiple people about product. They thought they were going to get product now, then they said January, and they're like, I fully expect they're going to say May next. Businesses can't continue to exist on that. So you start to have a cascade effect where business can't meet its contractual obligations. That affects another business. Then they're already on thin margins. I think a lot of these businesses right now are raising prices, not necessarily because of what they have right now, in terms of what that they can't have, that they don't have anything. How do I put this? How do I phrase this correctly? They're raising it because they see that they're not going to be able to get margined in the future. So they're trying to pad their profit at the moment. It's preemptive. I think it's a little preemptive in a lot of cases. But, look, I think that hard assets are where it's at. If you know stocks, and you know stocks that are not tied to the S&P shit 500, if you know that, then, obviously do your thing. Other than that, I'm a big hard asset person. crypto, precious metals. Silver seems to have particularly high upside, and real estate. And real estate's inflated, but it's also protected. And the one thing I'd say is that when it comes to the dollar, like, look, if you're thinking about buying stuff, buy it now. If you're thinking about doing services, get the services now, because everything's gonna inflate. And obviously, keep some cash, keep some stuff on you, but not financial advice, any of this. Just a dude talking. It's a dude giving his 2 cents. But the thing about crypto is that there's a lot of questions. But if people's responses will just put it in the S&P, or their responses, well, I don't trust crypto. Well, we know the dollar's dog shit. So that's what I mean. I wouldn't, unless you know that you're going to be able to throw it into something really quick if it goes down, unless you're a trader, unless you're speculating like that, just wouldn't bother with it. So anyway, guys, what kind of business to get into not tied to the old system? Well, people talk about e-commerce, but the way I would look at it is this. Okay, let's say you have a job in the old system. Because there's always, okay, well, I'll say this. There's all sorts of other stuff. If you have land, can you get into farming? Did you want to do that? What kind of, different kind of farming? I'll just give an example of that. Like, if your family owns some land, but maybe you've been working some bureaucratic job, maybe you get out of that job and then you go and you take the old family farm and you do something different with it, right? That would be a new world thing. But a new world thing could also be you're a doctor and you think that the healthcare system is parasitic and is actually poisoning people. And so you start your own practice outside of it and you do some sort of integrative medicine that is outside of the controlled big pharma model, right? And then maybe you're an insurance provider, you've been in the insurance industry, and rather than continue to support that, what you do is you talk to a bunch of these different doctors who have their separate practices, and you start to create a new kind of insurance that covers all this stuff, because most of these, holistic integrative medicine people are out of pocket. People are like, what do I get into? Well, you're going to have to create it. I'm just throwing out some ideas. You're going to have to create the new world. And the new world will be very decentralized, because once the old system collapses, a lot of people are going to die, and they're going to get, because of, what. But even beyond that, there's just going to have to be a whole new economic model that gets built. And a lot of it is going to be decentralized. I don't know about you guys, but one of the interesting things about COVID is, we all wanted to shop more local, but we weren't doing it. But since this stuff happened, it's like, and traveling's really not pleasant to do. I mean, I can't travel anywhere really, but for a lot of people, just, we're not traveling like we used to. Even if you can travel, you're not traveling like you used to, because it's just not, it's not appealing. You got to get all these tests and wear a mask on a plane, and you get yelled at. And so people have had to really focus on their local communities, and they've been trying to feed their local communities. I think we're going to see so much more of this. And I think the next 20 years, from now until like 2040, 2045, is going to be a very, very decentralized world. And we're going to be connected, and we're going to be cooperating with each other, but you're going to see a lot of these small groups, and it's going to be small groups on small groups. You're going to have small groups from a physical location. You're going to have small groups that are in different locations that are connected. And, my astrologer friend, Paul Publisher, talks about this as patchwork consciousness. And he was ahead of the time for me. I actually resisted it a bit. I was a little bit too much of a, a little too heavy on the plan trusting, thinking it was going to get cleared up too linearly. And it's definitely not. It's definitely going to be a collapse of structures, and we are going through an initiation right now. We are going through an initiation right now, and a lot of us, whether it's been inner work, as we go through these next few months, when we come out in the spring, I think many of us will be ready for the big act, that we will have gone through our internal test, and our graduation. We've had a series of quizzes, as Paul would say, and we're about to have the final exam, and after the final exam is graduation. And then we get to go out there and we get to actually start to build. We start to take things down directly and build. So it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time, and I know that, well, I feel great about it. I think it's as they say in War and Peace, as Dickens said, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And that is exactly what every period of upheaval is. So yeah, guys. Hey, I appreciate you. We'll do one more of these probably after Thanksgiving weekend. But take care, and God be with you. Turn this off.